Greetings, creeps, and welcome to Convo Fango. Today, we are joined by my animal director, Jacqueline Castel, and writer Jay Matthews. Yay! Or I guess I should let out like a howl, a celebratory howl would be more appropriate, probably.
Yeah.
So this is a feature directorial debut and a feature writing theatrical debut for you, Jay. So both of you guys are making your big screen debuts. So congratulations. And you came in hot right out of the gate with the Sundance premiere. You guys said we're not fucking around. Like so how has this been, Jacqueline? How has this reception been for you in premiering at Sundance?
Well, obviously it's incredible and really exciting. And I think beyond I always kind of talk about how for Sundance, for me in particular, it's kind of rooted in some other stuff for me beyond it just being the sort of name of Sundance. When I was in high school, I was living in Reno, Nevada, and we had friends of the family who lived in Park City, and they volunteered for the festival. And when they knew that I was getting into film, they were like, do you want to just come over? It's one state over and crash with us and see movies. And I was like, yes. And so I kept year after year, I was basically skipping my high school finals to go to Sundance. And all my teachers were super pissed at me. And I would go there and I would just I'd wait in lines. I would just sit there completely by myself. I'd go up to directors that I really admired. I remember seeing John Waters once outside smoking a cigarette.
Holy shit.
And I went up to him and I was like, I totally love you, And I think he thought that was really entertaining or something, because I was 15 at the time. And I don't know. So there was something that's kind of the festival that I feel really set me on my path as a film director. And so it was really important to me in particular being able to return to that festival and to be able to premiere my film there. So I feel it was really I was very, very nervous, but I think it hit me maybe the second screening, because we were screening at the Egyptian, and that's the real classic Sundance theater. So I think that's when it hit me more that it actually happened. But I think before that, you're just kind of lost in the adrenaline of making sure you have everything done in time and all of that. So it's your emotions are all over the place. Yeah. I felt completely insane when that premiere happened. So
that's amazing. And now I love that even more. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say to your high school teachers, I think it paid off, skipping finals and going to Sundance instead. I think it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Jay, how has this reception been for you?
Cool. Yeah, totally crazy, unexpected, I'd say.
Unexpected. All right. In a good sort of way, I'm guessing.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sorry, that comes from just I think we were kind of talking about this in the last interview. I wasn't part of production, so it feels like we were drafting and then the movie got made, and I was like, I hope it's all coming together. And then I watched it for the first time at Sundance. So that it was a full circle type of thing.
Is that nerve-wracking though? Or do you, I'm guessing that you had full trust in Jacqueline to take your baby and make this thing, but to spend this time making this and then it just goes away and then it comes back and it's okay, I hope it's coming together, and then you sit down to see it. What is that experience like when you're going to watch it for the first time and you don't really know what it's going to be?
It's definitely a wild experience for sure. And we were in the premiere at Sundance was in a theater that was beautiful, and it had excellent sound and visuals, but it wasn't proper, and there was no popcorn or even wine. So I definitely was all of my coping mechanisms emotionally eating or drinking wine were not available to me whatsoever.
That's when you bring the little pocket wine situation. You have a popcorn and I don't know, in an overcoat or something. For your next one, I'm going to make sure, I will personally make sure that I'm not here to bother you. I'm just here to give you popcorn and wine. I'll see myself out.
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky because the actual now release premiere is at Alamo. So Alamo's whole shtick is giving you all the wine you want and a hamburger too, if you need it.
You just have a buffet, you're going to take up 4 seats and it's just going to be you and just all the food spread for your coping mechanisms.
Exactly.
We get a lot of male protagonists in this subgenre of the werewolf coming of age allegory. Not a ton of werewolf girls in the mix, and I have always been a champion for we need more werewolf girl movies, because I watch something like this and the how relatable it is. I was like, holy shit, blown away by this. But Jay, why do you think that is? Like, why do we center these stories on dude werewolves so often?
Well, I'm no werewolf historian, but I would assume it has to do with masculinity, like there is some channel between like a transformation into a beast that is like inherently masculine, or like at least that's like the feeling or the social conditioning we have, because I don't know if I really agree with that. But yeah, like Beauty and the Beast. But yeah, and like I guess when you think about like all the werewolf classics, you are like thinking about like this like kind of dopey dude who like accidentally gets bit and like he like has to deal with a new life. And I think our film is very different in that is actually something that is in you, and it's in you and it's gonna come out no matter what. And I think that's like a very special analogy to just Heather's character and what they're going through.
I love
coming
that.
of age.
Yes, yeah. Jacqueline, is that part of what drew you to this? It was the werewolf aspect of it, and the fact that it's like not the typical a guy getting bitten by a werewolf and having to deal with that. Did that draw you to the story?
Well, okay, here's what's really our producer, Michael Solomon, when he first came to me with this project, he didn't tell me too much about it. He was just like, I think that you might like it. It's a werewolf movie. And the thing that was really funny is that I initially balked. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. And like that was like my first impression. I was like, okay, I'll check it out, right? And then I got the script and I saw that Jay had written it and was familiar with her music. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is going to be something really different. And then I read it and I fell in love with the characters and the world and the relationships. And I was like, such an interesting way of exploring this kind of a premise. And I think that a lot of times there is this like, just based on my own reaction to it, I think there's definitely a knee-jerk kind of response to what you expect for a werewolf film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's really intriguing to me, is kind of breaking free from that a little bit, because I think that like if you think about other types of genres, like vampires have been done in so many different ways. Like it could go in a super gory direction, or it could go in the direction of The Hunger. And it's like you have so many different ways that it's interpreted. And I don't feel like that's happened as much. I mean, it has, there are examples of it, but like not to the same degree with like werewolf mythology or like, the telling on screen. And I think just because there's like a big hurdle sometimes maybe with just like this hang up on like what the transformation has to be or whatever, right? Is the forefront is like the creature aspect of it. And that's why I just really like this. I remember one of the things I really responded to in the script was just that like Heather was like locking herself up every night in bed. And I remember just like loving that detail. Like it was small and it was subtle and it said so much, but it wasn't like really in your face. And so I don't know. I came in with like expectations of what I thought it was going to be, and then left like it was a completely different experience in that. And then I was like, okay, this is like, we should talk about it basically, from there.
Nice. I feel like that's, you kind of just described the audience experience in a way too. You hear, okay, werewolf movie, and you go in not quite sure what you're getting, and then like you're like, oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, so for that reason too, it's like people are gonna love it or they're gonna hate it, like there's gonna be people like going in with a set expectation and being disappointed that that's like not fulfilled in some ways. And then there's gonna be people that are like, oh wow, this is like so different and really refreshing. So, I'm sure it's gonna have a range of responses.
Be open to it, gang. That's what I'm gonna say. So let's say you're going to program a double feature with My Animal and something else. What do you choose to pair it with? Jay, what would your pick be?
That's a fun question. I actually haven't really thought of it. I guess like, you could go like pretty standard and do like ginger snaps, you can be like really lean into female werewolf them. I guess The Hunger would be like, if I went to the movie theater, I would probably love to go see my animal and the Hunger 35 millimeter print. Let's make that. You know, I think that might be my double feature, but I still will think about it too.
That's a solid bill. I would go to that.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, there's so many different directions. I mean, in terms of the different angles of the film, like I could see there also being like a double screening with like Pumping Iron 2, you know, just to go in like a completely different direction. And that could be really fun. Or like other kind of like reference points for like Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, or like Out of the Blue, where you got this kind of like drama element or whatever that's also kind of like in the narrative. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of ways it could go depending on what you want. But actually I've been thinking about doing like a screening series later in the year where it like there's a few different films that get selected that play alongside the movie. So this is great because this is like a pre-drafting
Brainstorm.
of that.
So
Out of the
you're
blue.
saying
Yeah.
my money's on Pumping Iron. I'm like, make that happen. So you're saying there's a chance. So Jay, what were some of your influences when you were writing this? Did you think about the hunger? Like, was that something that was kind of in your peripheral at all when you were creating this?
No, I probably even at that time I had not even seen The Hunger.
Okay.
I wrote this in like 2016, 2017. I kind of can't remember, but yeah, you know, I feel like there's no way to answer this without sounding like a little pretentious or something, but no, I didn't actually bring any influences in. And that's part of the reason why I do love screenwriting. It's like the writing craft that I lean the most into, because you have a program that's essentially like formatting for you. So you can just do whatever you want. And I'm obviously films have had an impact on what I want to write about, and how maybe too I like put stories together. But My Animal was something that I wrote in a really sad period of life, and just kind of was like, I feel like I was really exercising some of my past and some trauma that I carry around. And so it was just about getting it out there, and like this like benefit of having a program that will be like, oh, well, what character name? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I guess in terms of like films that I was, when it was done and I was like envisioning it, that also is strange too, because I never got to that point with this script. I didn't really think it was going to be produced into a movie. So I just like was like, all right, that's done. Move
Damn.
on, you know?
Okay. So you're like just kind of writing it for the purpose of catharsis almost, and then would just set it on your desk and it's done. And luckily it found its way off of your desk into the world.
Yeah, that's, I mean, truthfully kind of how it happened. It's like funny when when the producers contacted me, it was also like years after I'd written it. And like, first I was like, how did you read this? And then I still was kind of disbelieving that the intention from, like, I couldn't believe that they wanted to produce it or make it a film. So it's cool. It's lucky.
That's awesome. That's a weird story, but I like that. Jacqueline, were there any kind of references that popped into your head when you read it, or did you kind of, in your language of creating it, did you guys go back and forth? Did you have any kind of touch points as reference?
I mean, I think when the first time that I read anything, I'm purely reading for like the emotional resonancy. Like it's gotta like really connect with me. And so I was connecting again a lot with the relationships, a lot with the like mother-daughter relationship, a lot with like the older sister, younger brother relationship, just like the whole family dynamic, like really like connected with me quite a lot. And like the early explorations of relationships and the confusion surrounding that. So I think that's really what I was like, that's where I first have to touch base. But I don't know. It's a hard thing to describe because while you might have references, it's not like I'm sitting there kind of analyzing those references or how I'm going to bring them into a movie. It's more just like, okay, here's like a little bit of a touch point, but but ultimately you just go into your own process, right? And you just start shot listing the way that you're going to shot list. And I'm not like referencing somebody else's shots. I'm just like, oh, this is what I want. And I think that's just because I have years and years of like being a cinematographer, shooting all my own stuff. So like, I just kind of like inherently kind of know what stuff I want to capture. So you can have like reference points and stuff, but I feel like it's only going to take you to a certain point, and that's not really where I like start with. But it is something that like, of course, is going to permeate into the work somehow, you know, or there's like, but there'll be like literature, for example, that will inspire me. There'll be like music. Music is actually like a really big inspiration for me. And actually like the thing that's really funny, and Jay, I don't even know if I've even told you this before, but there is like, before I was working on this project, I was co-writing this like erotic thriller with Sasha Grey. And I remember when I was doing the writing for that, I was like blasting Boy Harsher really loud. This is before I got the script, like nothing, like we did any of that stuff, but I was just like a fan. And I was playing it so fucking loud and just like writing and like all this stuff. And so it was like really funny to me when then like, you know, because that music was like conjuring things for me, right? Or it was like inspiring me, or I was seeing stuff by listening to stuff. And so like, it was really funny then that the script came to me because I was like, oh, weird. And like, so I don't know. It's funny how that kind of stuff can kind of like manifest or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of other types of cultural touchstones or reference points. And like I said, like music is really important to me because I think as a kid, when I wanted to like escape, I would just like lay on the carpet of my floor in my bedroom and like play music insanely loud and just try to escape that way. And that's how I would enter into a lot of like creative spaces, was in listening to the music and having that help visualize for me. So I would almost argue that that's like maybe sometimes more influential to me when I'm actually like crafting the look and feeling of like a world.
I like that you specified you did that as a kid. I'm like, are we not still doing that now? Or is it
Yeah,
just
oh
me?
no,
You guys
no,
don't do
no.
that now?
For sure, for sure. Like I said, aforementioned listening to Boy Harsher while writing and it being really, really loud. There was actually one point when I was like writing something and I went out to like Joshua Tree and I specifically got this like house that was like really isolated so that I wouldn't have anybody give me any hell about how loud it was, because in New York City, it's like so on top of each other. But like, I feel like I just like getting to really intense emotional spaces when I'm crafting, and music helps you maybe get to that like really extreme place that maybe you feel like you need to feel to figure out how something is going to connect to one space to another space. If that
Absolutely. Yeah, absolute sense. Jay, for anyone who doesn't know, you are half of the musical duo Boy Harsher, which is why we're talking about Boy Harsher. And I do have to tell you that I do refer to Boy Harsher as my fuck shit up music. Like when I have to like prep for something, it is on like my playlist of like the jams that I used to get pumped up, you know, when I'm going to like pump iron or something.
Cool.
But your partner for Boy Harsher, Augustus, actually did the score for My Animal, right? Or did the music for My Animal? Yeah, which is awesome. Keeping it in the fold. I feel like this is all like you were listening to Boy Harsher when you were writing this other project, and then the script comes to you, and then it's your script, and then Augustus does the music. It's like this whole like kismet kind of thing that worked out really cool.
It's great, the package deal.
Yeah. No, I loved this movie so much. I saw it out of Sundance and I was like, I gotta talk to them. So I'm so glad that we got to sit down and do this, because I'm excited for it to be out in the world and we need more stories like this. So thank you guys.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. My Animal in select theaters September 8th and on digital September 15th.